Hello, Gulu MEM Adult Literacy Project trainees. Um, this is October 2025, and we are in the Owelo training for the Luo English Literacy Development Project. Today's topic is leadership. Let's say, okay, so based on the responses that I received from your um, homework from last month, we are tailoring this training to talking about leadership, talking about right versus wrong, and talking about attendance or student participation in the program. So we will begin here with the rights versus wrongs in emergent curriculum. So on a basic layer, um, what's right and what's wrong? Um, let's talk about what's right and what's wrong in in your house. Um, some houses, it's correct to remove your shoes when you enter the house, and some houses, that's not um, a norm. So every house and every family has different norms for doing what is considered right or wrong. Well, also, every instructor and every leader also has a different spectrum of what they consider right or wrong. So let's talk about it in terms of emergent curriculum. So emergent curriculum is multi-directional, not monodirectional specifically, although an emergent curriculum or a holistic curriculum would allow for times in which monodirection is necessary or advantageous. But essentially, a multi-directional approach, meaning there's lots of different ways that are correct to solve a problem, um, and that we are allowing our students to inform what is the correct way. The correct way is simply the way that the students come to it. So if we have 20 students in one year and they all have 20 different, ideas and um, uh, distinctions on how they come to the material, and then we have 20 different students in the second year. Well, if we are allowing our direction to change based on the students, um, then what is right is the adaptation that we make as instructors for those different students. Right? The only thing that's wrong is insisting that students do something that is absolutely against their their tendency, or by forcing students to do something that is for the sake of a system rather than for their own learning. Now, there are times when we want to challenge the student to engage in something that they may be deficient in. That's different than saying, well, the institution is this way and this way is the right way because it's the institution. And so you just have to do it this way because that's what all of the people that have developed the institution believe is the right way. Um, that would be wrong. So from a holistic approach, we're looking at the whole person, not just the content that we are looking at serving them. So we're saying, what are all the ways that our students might be able to come to understanding this material? Now, there is a very linear approach, and there's times when a linear approach is totally appropriate. So linear doesn't mean wrong. It means that it's one way of looking at something. Um, so if we consider the way that a seed is planted and it germinates and becomes a small plant and then develops and creates a flower, and then the flower ultimately creates a fruit, and then the fruit is harvested. That is a linear uh, experience. It's a linear example. But a holistic approach is to say, well, what are 10 seasons of that linear process? What are the ways that the linear process is affected by all of the other environmental concerns, right? So we're just expanding something that's true. The linear or the monodirectional is true, but we're thinking of things in a much larger scale. Um, Inclusive versus exclusive. So there are times to be inclusive, and there are times to say, you know what? Um, if you, as an instructor, engage in one student's challenges particularly, you are in fact excluding other students that where their learning is not relevant to the learning that you're engaging with on a personal level. And that is okay. So neither one is right or wrong uh, all the time. But when we're dealing with the whole student organism, the student population as an organism in general, we want to be inclusive. When we are engaging one student directly, we are being exclusive. And that's appropriate. Both of those are appropriate at different times. When we think about questions, for the most part, we want we as instructors get more information from our students if we ask open-ended questions. But there are times when it's appropriate to ask a yes or no question or a single answer question. Um, like, what time will you be here tomorrow? Is is a is a single answer, right? It's not um, uh, what are all the things that you're doing tomorrow, right? What are all the things that you're thinking about tomorrow? So there are times when we want to ask a direct question that has a yes or no answer, and there are times when we're looking for more information from our students and we want to ask open-ended questions. Democratic versus autocratic, let's say paradigm. So in a workplace or in society, we may want it to be more democratic, more inclusive of the entire population. In a smaller setting, we may want it to be more autocratic. For example, in my family, I always told my children, my the family is not a democracy. I'm your parent, and I have these expectations for you to my children, and and you are part of the family. And so the children need to adhere to the expectations of the parent. That is not a democracy. Uh, but but just because it's not a democracy does not mean it's not healthy. So in the family, the parents act more autocratically. They have high expectations because they have lived through life and have their own experiences that are beyond that of their children. And so they can demand that their children adhere to a certain um, system of expectations. In our spirituality, in our faith, um, there are um, polytheistic beliefs where you where you may have different loyalties, and you may see spirituality as being more nuanced than simply a single deity approach. Whereas monotheism has a dogma, a certain set of rules associated with how faith has to be stewarded and administered and approached. So, polytheism does not mean that is not necessarily correct, and neither is monotheism. Now, people in specific faiths, whether it's polytheistic faith or a monotheistic faith, they will tell you that they might tell you that their theological belief system is correct. And it's true. It may be correct for them, but it does not mean that it is true for everyone in a community or every single different person, every single person in the community. That if we are holistic and if we are inclusive of all different belief systems. The interesting part is that even within a monotheistic tradition, everyone still has different beliefs within that monotheism. So they agree on the larger principles in general, but individually they have different belief systems within their personal relationship with that um, theological tradition. So the answer to right versus wrong in emergent curriculum is really um, that there is no pathway that is necessarily right or necessarily wrong. That if it's going to be emergent, we are testing all the time. We are feeling out what is the next uh, best approach. And I can say that the right answer would be the one that includes the path of the student, right? All right, leadership and collaboration. This is one of the topics that came up within your homework over this last month. Within any organization, there are challenges and the relationship between leadership and the collaboration of the entity of the organization is always different, and it's always responding to the type of leadership that is administering the organization. So here on in the graphic diagram, we have some very common leadership styles: coach, visionary, servant, autocratic, laissez-faire, democratic, pace setter, transformational, transactional, and bureaucratic. Um, every different person depending on their experience and their background and their skill set, is going to fall as a leader. They will fall into one of these categories as a preference. None of them are necessarily bad, and none of them are necessarily good. There are very effective leaders throughout history in all of these different categories. But the nuances of how their characteristics engage and how their charisma is affected within the community comes into play. So none of these are right and none of them are wrong. They're all different and they're all real. For our part, because we are engaged in an instructional transaction, like meaning we are there to serve a population with the expectation of that population is going to gain knowledge. We're specifically talking about the generation and the propagation of knowledge within our student population. I'd like you to consider the difference between a traditional leader and a servant leader. So, a traditional leader sees leadership as a rank to obtain. So they see the idea of leadership as being the end goal of what they're hoping to get. Whereas a servant leader sees leadership as an opportunity to serve others. So the traditional leader does not see the student population as a necessary part of their leadership or the organization as a necessary part of their leadership. They just want the title that they are the leader. Whereas the servant leader understands that they are only the leader because they are serving other people. They are responsible for the other instructors. They are responsible for the student body. They are responsible for the parents in the students that are um, attending their school. They're responsible for their position within the community. It's a very different way of being, a way of thinking about leadership. Number two, traditional leaders use power and control to drive performance, whereas a servant leader shares that power and control to drive engagement. Performance versus engagement is really key here. So it's it again comes back to what is the end goal? Is the end goal for us as leaders to feel successful because our students um, achieved a performance? Or is what is important that our students achieve performance because of their engagement, not only in our class, but in the world, in their community, in their families, in and with their families? Um, and how do we take our responsibility and instead of hoarding the power of that, how do we share the power of that with our students in order to increase learning? How do we share that power with our organizational trainees and the other instructors so that they feel empowered to make high quality decisions? Number three, how do you measure success? A traditional leader will measure success through output, through what is achieved, through what is demonstrated. Whereas a servant leader will measure success through how much growth and development happens. Understanding that it may take a different amount of time to achieve the same output or to achieve the same goal with any two different students. What we want is to always be witnessing and contributing to growth and development. Number four, a traditional leader speaks, a servant leader listens. Uh, Number five, a traditional leader believes that it's about themselves as a leader, whereas a servant understands that in the bigger picture, they themselves as a leader is not what's important in the big picture of the growth and development of the student. For example, if you all think back onto your secondary education, how much of your secondary education do you attribute to the principal or to the leader or to the administration of the school that you attended, compared to how much do you consider about your own personal growth and development through secondary school? Okay, so considering that all of us as instructors are teachers that are also learning at the same time, we are as instructors we are continuously learning about our process and about how to be better instructors. So every week that we instruct, ideally we become better instructors because we are learning about how to instruct based on all of the experience that we have over the week before. So that after the course of 11 months of this program, hopefully we are all better instructors. And so, from that perspective of learner teachers, we are teachers that are professional learners. Um, we consider ourselves having a stake in being a person or people of knowledge. And so I'd like to introduce to you um, the four enemies of the man of knowledge, as described by Don Juan in the book by in a book by Carlos Castaneda, um, and where he introduces the four. And Don Juan is a indigenous shaman, Yaqui Indian in the deserts of northern Mexico and southern United States. And what Don Juan tells Carlos Castaneda is that there are four enemies of man, of the man of knowledge. The a person who pursues knowledge and is a learner has four different enemies. And he describes them as this: fear, clarity, power, and old age. These are internal obstacles that must be overcome in order to achieve a higher state of understanding. So, in order to move to the next level of learning for us, we need to battle these enemies and hopefully overcome them so that we can move to the next stage. So, the first enemy is fear. Fear is an obstacle to learning because in the early stages we're maybe afraid of being wrong. We're maybe afraid of trying. We're afraid of the work. We have fear um, of not devoting our time to the best thing that we could be devoting it to at the present. So there are a lot of things to be fearful about when we begin the process of learning. Um, but this obstacle, while overwhelming, has to be confronted in order to move your learning to a higher state of being. The process of conquering fear is to achieve a clarity where you have enough success in saying, okay, I was afraid of doing that, but I'm going to push past it. And then when you have success after you push through fear, you eventually get to the point of realizing that fear doesn't really control what, while it has a purpose, it can be overcome. And that the benefit of overcoming fear is to actually gain a higher level of understanding and wisdom because you took the risk. You took the risk to challenge fear and to challenge the things that are internally that you may be afraid of and to move through it. And that is where a person arrives at clarity. You have the clear understanding that fear is not something that should really be an obstacle. You may always have it, but you know that if you push through fear, you will arrive at knowledge. Um, Clarity, however, can be blinding, causing a person to stop questioning or learning because they've become too certain in themselves. So, um, this is a person who I qualify as an I have arrived person, um, or a glass or a full glass type of person. If a person is a glass and we think of the glass or the cup as a vessel of learning, if the person is a full glass, they have no room inside themselves for new knowledge because they have decided that they already know everything. And we have to trick ourselves into not being full glass people. We have to increase, if we have increased our knowledge to the size of the glass, we have to increase the size of the glass so that that knowledge becomes something less than, so that we have enough room to grow and develop into the next stage of knowledge and development for ourselves. That's a difficult process. But if we are able to do that, if we are able to challenge clarity and say, I feel like I know a lot, but I always encounter things that teach me that I know less than what I think I know, we will find ourselves battling the third enemy of man. The third enemy of the man of knowledge is power. After gaining clarity, a person may develop a sense of power and control, which is the third enemy. This is described as the strongest of the enemies and is easy to become a master of one's domain, but at the cost of continued learning. So once you combat clarity and you realize that there are always new things to know, you increase your knowledge and development at an even faster pace. And that quick rate of knowledge and development feels very powerful. Feels very powerful to have conquered fear and then to conquer your own ego. However, many people don't, once they achieve power and the power over those things, um, they get stuck in the concept of power. They get stuck in battling power, and we realize that we've arrived at our third enemy. which is power itself. In order to conquer power, we have to we have to gain a sense of humility, a sense of service, a sense that our experience is our experience, but not others, the experience of others, and uh, and that the experience of others can inform ourselves to the point where we can continue to grow and develop. So humility and a lack of ego, an understanding of why we do the things that we do, allows us to conquer the enemy of power. But once we do, we encounter our fourth enemy. The fourth enemy of a man or woman of knowledge is old age. And old age is the cruelest enemy of them all because it's not possible to conquer old age. It is the final enemy that a person will face. Can never be completely defeated, can only be fought against. But it's through the fighting against old age that we continues to say we have something to share with the world. We have something to share with our community. We have a stake in our community. And even as we struggle against our own mortality, we participate and we share our power, we share our cruelty, and we share our experiences of having fear as an aspect of what drives our wisdom. So all of us as instructors are dealing with some stage of that development of the four enemies of a man of knowledge. When we think about our students and the other and our colleagues, and we think about what motivates people to attend a class, what motivates our students to attend a class or to decide that they are not going to attend a class. What what's the process that our colleagues go through in terms of engaging in collaboration with each other, or our leaders in fomenting education and collaboration within and amongst the colleagues, and what motivates us uh, re, to restrict ourselves from collaborating or to stay on the outside and say, well, I'll let those people collaborate, but I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to put in the energy to whatever this discussion is. What is it that gets our students to attend class? What is it that gets our colleagues to attend their instructional time? How do we integrate with each other? How do we integrate with um, the organism of the group? What is the value that I take as an instructor? Why do I think that it's valuable to me and my time to be instructing? Why do all of you think it's valuable for you to be in this class? Why do you think it's valuable to have the occupation of training and teaching these students literacy techniques in Luo and English? What amount of risk taking and what motivates us to take risks within this occupation, within our relationships with the other people in the organization and the organism of the learning environment. So I want to focus on value here, right? The value part is why people do anything that they do. So I instruct in this forum, in this format. I'm producing this video because I get value out of it. I like to do this. It makes me feel good to share a learning moment with anybody. And the more I get to know all of you in Gulu, Uganda, the more value I get out of it because I'm developing my relationship with you. And the relationship itself is the valuable part. Um, when we think about our students, we say, well, are what sort of value are they getting out of the class? If they don't show up to class, are they not showing up because they aren't getting the same value that other students are getting that do show up? How do we talk about the value that I get as an instructor compared to the value that learners get? Last but not least is your homework. What is your personal ethos as an instructor? Please explain what drives you into this work. Why do you want to show up every week and engage in this program every month? Number two, what type of leader do you prefer? What type of leader are you? And number three, of the four enemies of the people of knowledge, what enemy do you think you are currently battling? Please give me those answers to those questions, and I look forward to seeing your explanations and your work over the next month. Be well, and I will see you live in a couple weeks. Thank you.